Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I have a super easy and delicious cake recipe for you. This video is sponsored by Maple from Canada, and I'll be making my maple apple streusel cake. It's sweetened with pure maple syrup, loaded with tons of apples. We're going to add an almond maple streusel topping and a maple whipped cream for serving on the side. 100% pure maple syrup from Canada is a natural sweetener that's derived directly from maple tree sap, and it's the perfect alternative to sugar for baking and desserts. Real maple has a one-of-a-kind rich maple flavor that's going to make this apple cake just extraordinary. Let's get started. I'm going to show you how to make this easy cake recipe. I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I've lined the bottom of a 9-inch springform pan with some parchment paper. I also sprayed down the sides with the baking spray. I'm going to set aside this pan for now, and we'll get started on the cake batter. I'm going to get started with the wet ingredients first. Into a large mixing bowl, I'm going to add in 3/4 cups of sour cream, and this is what's going to make the cake really moist and fluffy. And we need 3 large eggs for this recipe, and I've brought the eggs up to room temperature. Add the eggs into the mixing bowl, along with 3/4 cups of cooking oil, and today I am using canola oil, and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Next up, I'm going to need 3/4 cups of pure maple syrup from Canada. Now, unlike mass-produced syrups, which contain a slurry of sugars and artificial flavors and corn syrups, real maple syrup has just one ingredient, and that's pure maple. So I'll need 3/4 cups of the syrup. You guys are going to love the incredible rich flavor that this adds to the apple cake. Add the maple syrup into the mixing bowl. And I'm going to use my hand mixer. You can also use a stand mixer for this recipe, and beat all these ingredients together for about 2 to 3 minutes until I have a smooth mixture. Next up, we have our dry ingredients. I've measured out 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. To that, I'm going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix this all together. And I'm going to sift the dry ingredients into my cake batter, and you always want to do this just so you don't end up with any clumps of flour or baking soda in your cake batter. And then I'll use my hand mixer and mix this for about a minute, just until the dry ingredients are incorporated. And now time for the apples. I have 2 cups of peeled and diced apples. I'm going to drop those in, and I'll use a spatula to fold those into the batter. This cake is perfect for breakfast too, with a cup of hot coffee. I'll transfer the prepared cake batter into my 9-inch springform pan. And I'm going to sprinkle an additional 1 cup of peeled and diced apples over the top, because you can never have too many apples. These are going to be so fantastic. My maple apple cake is just about done. We have just one more thing to add, and that's the almond and maple streusel topping. It's so crunchy, and it just makes this cake even more delicious. For the streusel topping, we're going to need 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. To that, I'm going to be adding in 1/4 cup of unsalted butter. Now, what I did was I cubed the butter into small little pieces, and I placed it into the freezer for about 5 minutes. You want the butter to be really nice and cold so that it crumbles nicely with the flour. Drop that in. I'm also going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and I'll grate in about 1/4 teaspoon of fresh nutmeg. And I'm going to use a pastry cutter. You can also use 2 large forks, and I'm going to cut the butter into the flour until I have small crumbles form. Into this crumbled mixture, I'm going to add in 1/3 cup of sliced almonds. Toss that together. And to sweeten the crumble and to bind all that flour together with the butter, I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup from Canada. I'm going to pour in the maple syrup, and then use a spoon to toss everything together. Now, you don't want to overmix, just toss until that flour is no longer dry. And then I'll use my fingers to kind of drop this crumble over the top. My maple apple streusel cake is ready to go into the oven. It's going to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour and 10 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Once it's done baking, I'm going to take it out of the springform pan and onto a wire rack to cool. Next, I'm going to show you how to make some simple maple whipped cream that you can enjoy on the side. For my maple whipped cream, I've measured out 1 cup of very chilled heavy cream. Now if you want extra whipped cream on the side with your cake, I recommend doubling the recipe. And I'll sweeten the whipped cream with a 1/3 cup of pure maple syrup from Canada. Let's measure that out. And the maple syrup makes this whipped cream taste so incredibly delicious. I'm gonna pour that right in. And I'll mix the heavy cream for about 4 to 5 minutes until stiff peaks form. And then before I cut into this apple cake, I wanted to show you guys the almond streusel topping after baking. Check this out. It's so nice and crispy. It's going to be the perfect combination with that soft apple cake. Let's cut into this apple cake. It's still a little bit warm on the inside, and I'm using a serrated knife so that it'll cut through that crunchy streusel topping. Check this out. Isn't that one incredible apple cake? And check out this cake on the inside. It's just so soft and moist on the inside with little bits of the apple pieces in there. And then you have the crunchy streusel topping. This is going to taste incredible. And let's add some of that whipped cream on the side. I like to add it on the side because I like to eat the cake while it's still a little bit warm, so keeping it separate, the whipped cream won't melt this way. And that's it for my maple apple streusel cake. This turned out incredible and it smells so amazing. I can't wait to dig in and enjoy. A huge thank you to Maple from Canada for sponsoring this video. Make sure to head on down the video description box. You'll find a recipe link that'll take you over to my website where you can print this recipe off and you can find it with metric measurements. Time to dig in and enjoy. This looks so good. Going to grab some of that whipped cream on the side. And I actually really like to enjoy this cake while it's still a little bit warm. I'm just missing a cup of coffee on the side with this right now. This looks so good. This apple cake is amazing. You guys are going to love the texture. It's super soft and moist and delicate, and I love the bits of the sweet apples on the inside. And then you have that crunchy almond streusel on the top. It has a little bit of cinnamon nutmeg flavor to it, and it tastes so incredible. And I'm loving the maple flavor here too. It tastes so good with the apple cake. I could eat this apple cake every single day. I am loving those rich maple flavors from that pure maple syrup that we added into the cake batter and then into that whipped cream. I love using pure maple syrup for baking. It just makes everything taste so much better. Don't forget to head on down in the video description box for the recipe link. I hope you guys enjoy this cake at home as much as I do, and I'll see you next time with a new recipe.